Alara didn't wake for hours. Jace sat in the corner of the small cabin, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest under the thermal blanket. He had explored the ship quietly while she slept, trying to make sense of it all. It wasn't just a ship, it was something ancient, alive, and built with a strange kind of technology he had never seen before. The walls hummed softly when he walked past, lights glowing where his hands touched. The food station created warm soup when he spoke, gently, and the air always smelled clean, like the forest after rain. Whatever this ship was, it liked him, but why? When Alara finally stirred, she blinked slowly, her glowing eyes landing on Jace across the room. "You're still here," she said softly. He stood up, bringing a bowl of soup toward her. "Yeah, I figured you might need this more than I do," he replied, sitting beside her. She took the bowl with weak hands, her fingers trembling slightly as she sipped. The moment the warmth touched her lips, her cheeks lit up slightly, the glowing lines beneath her skin growing brighter. Jace watched in silence, unsure if she was healing or transforming or both. When she finished, she looked at him with a quiet kind of sadness. "I owe you the truth," she said. "About me. About the ship. I think I deserve it," Jace said calmly. "After all, I technically bought you," he added, half joking, half serious. Alara smiled for the first time, but it was not a happy smile. "You didn't buy me," she said, her voice distant. "You freed me." Jace tilted his head, confused. "You were trapped?" She nodded slowly, her fingers tracing the edge of the blanket. "I'm not from any common world," she began. "I was born on Velshara, a planet hidden by gas clouds, ruled by ancient houses and sacred bloodlines." She paused, looking out at the stars through the small window. "I was a Sunglow heir, daughter of House Elzin, the last of my line." Jace stayed silent, listening. "I was supposed to be a queen," she continued, "but my family, they feared what I was becoming." "What were you becoming?" Jace asked, his voice low. "A hybrid," she said. "My blood carried something rare, something born from an ancient experiment." She reached up and touched her glowing cheek. "My power scared them." She looked back at him. "They tried to control it, seal it away, marry me to a warlord who would keep me silent." Jace frowned. "You didn't agree to that?" "I refused," she said firmly. "So they put me in the ship, told the world it was a royal gift, then launched it during a fake celebration. No one knew I was inside." Jace felt cold all of a sudden. "So this ship, it was your prison?" She nodded. "Yes, but it was also my protector. The ship was designed to wait for someone it could trust, someone pure, someone with no hunger for power." She looked straight into his eyes. "It waited for you." Jace didn't know what to say. He had never felt important before, never special. But now, an ancient alien ship had chosen him, and a royal woman, no, a warrior hiding behind her silence, was telling him he mattered. "It doesn't make sense," he said honestly. "I'm just a salvage guy." "You're more than that," Alara whispered. "The ship sees who you are, not what you do." For a moment, silence filled the room. The soft hum of the ship was the only sound. Then she added, "There's something else. Something you must know." Jace leaned closer. "When I was placed in stasis," she said slowly, "they didn't just hide me. They put a bounty on me." Jace's eyes widened. "A bounty? Like people are hunting you?" She nodded. "The warlord I refuse. He swore that whoever brings me back would be rewarded with power and territory. And now that the ship is flying again, the signal has gone out. They know I'm awake." Jace stood up, pacing the small room. "We have to get somewhere safe." Alara looked at him, her voice steady. "There's no such place." "Not anymore, but there might be allies," she added. "On the edge of this system, an old friend of my family, someone who once protected hybrids like me." Jace stopped pacing, then turned to her. "Then let's go find them," he said. Alara smiled again, a little stronger this time. "You really aren't like the others," she whispered. "And you really don't want to go back." Jace replied, "No," she said. "Not unless you're with me." Outside the ship, distant sensors blinked. A hostile signal echoed quietly in the stars. A hunter had picked up the trail, and he was already coming. Asterisk. The stars outside the ship looked calm, but inside the control room, alarms pulsed like a heartbeat. Jace stood behind Alara, watching as her glowing hands moved quickly over strange alien symbols. "This is not good," she whispered, her voice tense. "What's wrong?" Jace asked, stepping closer. "The bounty hunters," she replied. "They found us." A hologram appeared above the main console. It showed a long, spiky ship closing in fast, red lines blinking around its shape. "They're already here?" Jace asked, confused. "How?" "We just lifted off a few hours ago. The ship's reactivation triggered an old signal," she said. "Whoever set the bounty must have programmed it into the stasis pod." Jace clenched his fists. "So waking." "You up sent out a call?" "Yes," Alara said. "A call to hunt me down." Jace turned toward the viewing screen and saw the enemy ship now visible through the stars. It was black and jagged like a knife in space, with glowing red thrusters and claw-like wings. "Can we outrun them?" he asked. "Maybe," she said, "if the ship fully accepts you." "Me?" He blinked. "Why me again?" "This ship was made for two," Alara said, looking at him seriously. "One to guide, one to protect." She placed his hand on a glowing control sphere. "Let it read your heart," she whispered. Jace took a deep breath, placing both hands on the orb. A warm energy moved through his skin like a current. The ship responded instantly. Lights across the walls flared to life. Engines roared deeper, and the seats folded into place for them. "It worked," Alara whispered, eyes wide. "It accepted you fully." Suddenly, the enemy ship fired. The impact shook their ship hard. Sparks flying from one side of the wall. Jace stumbled but quickly returned to the console. "What do we do now?" Ilara's voice grew sharp. "We fight back." She pressed her fingers into the console, and the ship's skin rippled, transforming silently. Hidden weapons slid out from beneath the hull, ancient but still sharp. The ship turned fast, locking onto the attacker. Jace could feel the ship vibrating beneath his feet, not from fear, but from excitement. It wanted to move, to protect. He grabbed the steering control, and the ship surged forward like a living missile. Their laser cannons fired beams of pale blue energy, striking the enemy's wings. The black ship dodged fast and fired again, this time hitting closer to the engine. Alara cried out, holding her side, her glowing skin dimming for a second. "You're hurt." Jace shouted. "I live," she said through clenched teeth. "Just keep flying." Jace turned the ship sharply, dodging more blasts. He wasn't a soldier, but something inside him clicked. The ship guided him, and his instincts matched its rhythm. They flew between asteroid fragments, dodging rock and fire, the black ship always behind them. Then, Alara reached forward and whispered something in her ancient tongue. A glowing circle appeared beneath the enemy ship. "What did you do?" Jace asked. "Called on the ship's memory," she said. "This vessel remembers who it once was, a Guardian-class predator." The light beneath the enemy ship exploded upward in a beam of raw energy. The enemy twisted to avoid it, but not fast enough. Its left wing shattered, spiraling out into the stars. The enemy ship pulled back, engines flickering, smoke trailing behind. "We got them," Jace said, barely believing it. "For now," Alara said, slumping in her seat. "But they'll call others." Jace turned to her. "You need help, food." "Healing something," she nodded weakly. "There's a hidden world in this sector, old and shielded, forgotten by most." She pushed in coordinates, her hand shaking. "If we can reach it, I might recover there." Jace punched the controls, and the ship jumped to light speed, stars stretching around them like rivers of light. He looked back at her, this mysterious woman, this warrior, this prisoner of her own people, and he realized something terrifying. She wasn't just being hunted. She was worth a war, and now, so was he. The hidden world Alara spoke of wasn't listed on any chart Jace had seen. It was dark, surrounded by broken moons and shifting space storms. Their ship dropped out of hyperspace near a field of sharp asteroids, floating like fangs around the small blue-green planet. "Is this really safe?" Jace asked, gripping the controls. "Not safe," Alara said, her voice weak but steady. "Hidden." They weaved through the floating rocks, the ship trembling slightly under his grip. The planet below shimmered with old shielding tech, invisible to most scanners, but not to this ancient vessel. As they entered orbit, the ship passed through a thin veil of energy, and suddenly the stars behind them went quiet. Jace let out a slow breath. "I think we made it." But then the warning lights came alive again. "No," Alara whispered, her glowing eyes widening. "They followed us." On the far edge of the asteroid field, a dark ship appeared, smaller than before, but faster, sharper, like a dagger aimed for the heart. Alara struggled to her feet. Leaning on the wall, "You need to land," she said. "Get us to the surface, I'll protect us." Jace shook his head. "You can barely stand." "I won't let them take you," she said softly, her fingers glowing brighter now. Her skin pulsed with golden blue light, as if something inside her had finally woken. Jace dove the ship toward the hidden world, weaving through clouds and electrical storms. Below, a lush alien forest appeared, dotted with glowing rivers and giant purple trees. He picked a clearing near a strange mountain temple, trusting his gut. The ship landed hard, dust rising all around them. Before Jace could even catch his breath, the enemy ship screamed through the sky and crashed nearby. Alara stepped off the ramp first, her long white hair glowing in the stormlight. Jace ran after her. "What are you doing?" "We should hide." She turned toward him, her expression calm but fierce. "I ran for too long," she said. "Now I fight." A hatch opened on the enemy ship, and out stepped a tall bounty hunter in silver-black armor, his face covered, his weapon glowing. He looked at Alara, then at Jace, and laughed. "This is what the royal bloodline protects now. A human?" Jace stepped in front of her, fists clenched. "You want her? You'll have to get through me." The bounty hunter raised his weapon without hesitation, aiming straight for Jace's chest. Then it happened. Alara stepped forward, placing her glowing hand in front of Jace. The blast hit her palm, then stopped. Frozen in midair like glass, the hunter gasped. "Impossible, your kind lost that power." "I'm not just my kind," she said, her voice ringing like thunder. She raised both hands now, energy spiraling out from her skin, forming a radiant shield around Jace. The forest lit up with her power, trees bending in awe, the ground humming beneath their feet. Jace stood frozen, watching her transform, not into a monster, not into a queen, but into something free. With a cry, Alara unleashed a burst of light, blasting the bounty hunter back into his own ship. The ground around him cracking from the force, his ship groaned. Lights flickering, systems failing, he scrambled to retreat, crawling inside as his engine sparked. "You'll regret this," he shouted. "All of you." Then his ship lifted, limping into the sky, vanishing into the clouds. Jace turned to Alara, who had dropped to one knee, breathing hard. He rushed to her side, kneeling beside her. "You protected me," he whispered. She looked up at him, sweat on her forehead, her eyes softer now. "I said I would," she replied. "I meant it." Jace gently pulled her into his arms, her body trembling, but alive. "You didn't have to," he said, voice low. "I wanted to," she answered. "Because you saw me as a person, not a weapon." The sky above them cleared slightly, moonlight shining through around them. The alien trees whispered in wind songs, ancient energy welcoming her home. Jace held her quietly, his heart racing. In that moment, he knew this was no longer about a ship or a strange auction. He hadn't just found a passenger, he had found someone worth fighting for. And she had already fought for him. The storm passed slowly. Soft rain fell from the sky above the forest clearing, washing the dust and smoke away. Jace sat beside Alara on a flat stone near the edge of the glowing river. The mountain temple stood. Behind them, quiet and mysterious, its golden light reflecting in her silver hair. For the first time since they met, there was no sound of alarms, no engines, no weapons, only the sound of breathing. And feelings they both couldn't hide anymore. Jace looked at her. "How are you feeling?" Alara smiled faintly. "Lighter," she said. "Like something heavy finally left my chest." "You were amazing," he said. "I've never seen anything like that. I never thought I'd use that power again." She whispered, "Not after what it cost me." Jace tilted his head. "What did it cost you?" She looked into the water for a long moment, then replied, "My family's love. They feared my power," she continued. "So they sealed it and sealed me. But you," she turned toward him, "you never asked me to hide, never treated me like a threat. I just saw you," Jace said softly. "A girl who needed help." Ilara's eyes shimmered under the moonlight. "And now," she said quietly, "I want to give something in return." "You already have," Jace said. "You saved my life." "That's not what I mean," she whispered. Her voice now like a soft wind, she stood slowly, stepping in front of him, her hair glowing gently, her hands clasped before her. "My kind," she began, "we don't marry like humans do. We don't make promises with paper or laws. We bond through trust, through survival, through choosing." She reached out and gently placed her hand over his heart. "And I choose you," she said, her voice trembling. "Not because I owe you, not because I'm grateful, but because I feel safe when you're near." Jace's eyes widened. "Alara, I know you didn't ask for this," she said. "You just came to buy a ship. But the ship chose you," she smiled now, "and so have I." Her words weren't dramatic, they weren't loud, but they shook Jace more than any explosion ever had. He stood in silence, not because he was afraid, but because the moment felt too real to rush. "I don't want a throne," she said. "I don't want a kingdom or a title. I want warmth and laughter. And someone who sees me as more than a name. I want to build something with my own hands. And if you'd let me," she looked up at him, "I'd like to build it with you." Jace finally reached out, his fingers gently lacing with hers. "I didn't come here looking for anyone," he said. "But now that I've found you, I don't want to walk away." Alara smiled fully now, not the sad or careful smile from before, but something deep and true. The forest seemed to breathe with them. A wind curling around their feet, soft light falling like petals from the trees. She stepped closer, resting her forehead gently against his. "Our bond is ours to keep or break," she whispered. "No bloodline, no warlord, no prophecy can control it." "Then let it be ours," Jace said. "Not fate's, not the ship's, ours, in the sky above." The clouds parted just enough to show two moons rising together, side by side, like two paths that had wandered alone for too long but finally touched. Jace and Alara sat down beside the glowing river. No need to speak now. In silence, they just held each other's hands, not as strangers, not as master and passenger, not even as human and alien, but as two souls who had earned the right to choose. And tonight, they chose one another, not for power, not for rescue, not for survival, but simply because they wanted to. Morning light broke gently over the hidden forest world. Soft mist drifted over the glowing river, and the alien trees swayed slowly as if whispering farewell. Jace stood outside the ship with Alara beside him, their hands still linked from the night before. Everything felt different now. Not just the air, not just the ship, but him. He was no longer just a man who bought a strange vessel at an auction. He was a protector, a partner, maybe something even more. Alara looked stronger now, her energy restored, the glowing lines on her skin pulsing with life. She had slept peacefully beside him for the first time since they met. No alarms, no pain, no fear. Now they were ready to leave this world. "Are you sure you want to go back up there?" Jace asked, glancing toward the sky. "There's danger out there," he added. "Bounty hunters, Empires, warlords. Alara nodded slowly. Yes, but I'm not running anymore. She turned to face him fully. And this time, I won't be alone. The ship's ramp lowered with a soft hum, as if welcoming them back. The once dull metal now gleamed with clean silver. Vines replaced by shining blue cables. The ship was no longer hiding, it was alive, just like the bond it had waited centuries to protect. They stepped inside together, the doors sealing behind them like a warm embrace. Jace moved to the controls, and Alara took her place beside him, not as cargo, not as royalty, but as his equal. He looked around the bridge, then smiled. So, where to? She touched the map console, and 1,000 stars filled the air like fireflies. Out there, she whispered, somewhere far, somewhere free. The ship responded instantly, its engines warming with a low, deep purr. The console lit up with ancient text and symbols, slowly translating themselves for Jace. Looks like it wants to explore too, he said, grinning. Good, Alara replied. Because we're not just surviving anymore, we're living. Just as the ship began to lift, a signal crackled over the comms. Jace froze, his hand hovering over the panel. The voice was cold, sharp, and filled with venom. You may have escaped one hunter, princess, it said, but you've awakened many. Ilara's eyes narrowed, her body tense. Let them come, she said quietly. I'm not afraid. The ship's weapons shimmered beneath the hull, shields activating on their own. Jace looked at her with a small smile. Guess we won't get bored, she smiled back. Not with you. They burst through the atmosphere, the forest shrinking behind them as the stars opened wide. The black of space stretched out like an endless canvas, and they flew into it, not hiding, not fleeing, but choosing. Jace looked over at her. The way her hair floated slightly in the gravity field, the way her eyes sparkled with freedom. You sure about this bond thing? He asked, teasing gently. Because I'm kind of a mess sometimes, she laughed softly. Then we'll be messy together. They shared a quiet look, full of meaning, no words needed. Behind them, a small light blinked, an old tracking beacon, still echoing through space. But ahead of them, countless paths waited, some filled with danger, some with wonder, and maybe even other lost souls like them. Jace sat back in the chair, placing both hands on the controls. I never thought buying a ship would change my life, he said. You didn't just buy a ship, Alara replied. You found me, and I'm not giving you back, he said, grinning. The ship hummed louder, glowing with purpose as it locked onto new coordinates. With a soft roar, it jumped to light speed, streaking through the stars like a comet. 2 hearts, 1 ship, and a galaxy waiting to be rewritten, not by kings, not by generals, but by a human man and the alien bride he never meant to win, but who chose him anyway. Jace never planned to buy a spaceship that night. He was just wandering through the outer colony market, his hands in his pockets, looking for something to distract himself from the loneliness of space life. The auction was loud and chaotic. Voices, shouting numbers, strange blinking signs, alien languages mixing with human ones. He almost walked past it, but a metallic hum made him stop. A small stage was set up in front of a rusty hangar, and on that stage sat a spaceship, but it was like no ship he had ever seen before. Covered in vines and glowing markings, it looked more like a sleeping beast than a machine. The auctioneer, a short creature with 6 arms and 1 glass eye, waved his hands wildly, trying to get attention. This one here. Last ship of the night. The creature shouted. Might be junk, might be treasure. We don't open, we just sell 'em. Most buyers laughed or ignored it. But Jace kept staring. Something about the ship felt strange, alive even. The metal shimmered under the auction lights, and its curved hull looked more organic than built. Do I hear 1,000 credits? The auctioneer asked, but no one raised a hand. 1,000 anyone? 800? Jace didn't even know why he raised his hand. Maybe it was the glow in the markings, or maybe it was the way the ship seemed to be waiting for someone. He raised his hand slowly, just as the auctioneer was about to move on. Sold. To the young man in the dusty jacket, the auctioneer grinned, his teeth like yellow glass. "Enjoy your mystery prize, human." People clapped lazily and laughed, and Jace suddenly felt unsure. What had he just done? He walked toward the ship, the crowd parting with amusement. The closer he got, the more he felt a chill in the air. The vines were not real plants, they were cables, old and dried, wrapped around the ship like veins. He touched the hull, and for a moment, he thought it pulsed beneath his fingers. He blinked, stepping back. "Just nerves," he muttered to himself. Trying to shake off the feeling, the ship's door opened with a hiss. As if it recognized his touch, inside was darkness, thick and heavy, like something hadn't moved in years. He turned on his small wrist light and stepped inside. Dust floated in the air, dancing in the beam of light. The ship's hallway was narrow and strange, with symbols etched into the walls. He moved slowly, every footstep echoing louder than it should have. "Hello?" He called out, but his voice seemed to vanish in the air. Then, he heard something, a soft sound like breathing. He froze. Was someone in here? He raised the light toward the end of the corridor and saw a door, slightly open. The sound was coming from there. He stepped forward, his heart pounding. The door creaked open fully, and he stepped into what looked like a control room. Broken monitors, old alien chairs, and a glowing cryopod stood in the center, inside the pod. Was a girl, an alien woman, young, beautiful, with glowing lines across her skin and silver-white hair floating in the cryo-mist. She was asleep or frozen, he couldn't tell. Then her eyes opened, not fully, just a slit, but enough to show they were large and luminous. She looked at him, barely moving. "You're not my master," she whispered, her voice cracked and dry. Jace's breath caught in his throat. He stepped back, stumbling into a chair. "What? Who are you?" he asked, his voice shaky, but she didn't answer. The pod hissed again, releasing a bit of air, and her eyes slowly closed. He stood frozen, heart racing. This wasn't just a ship. He hadn't just bought junk. He had bought something alive, someone outside. The auction was already moving on, the lights fading, the crowd dispersing. But inside this strange glowing ship, Jace knew something had begun, something he couldn't walk away from now. Jace couldn't move. He kept staring at the strange alien woman sleeping inside the cryopod. Her silver-white hair floated in the cold mist like silken water. Glowing blue lines pulsed gently under her pale skin, as if she was made of energy, not flesh. He took a slow step closer, heart thudding in his chest. She didn't wake. Her face was peaceful, almost too still, like a painting trapped in time. Was she alive? He reached out and brushed his fingers against the edge of the pod's smooth surface. The moment his skin touched it, the entire pod responded. A soft hum began to rise. The lights turned a warm gold, and her body relaxed, her lips moved again, whispering something he couldn't understand. Suddenly, her eyes opened wide. Glowing like twin galaxies, she looked directly at Jace, not with fear, but with recognition. "Protocol ... Unlocked," she whispered. "You are not him. But you are chosen." Jace's mouth went dry. Who are you?" he asked, stepping back a little. The pod opened with a slow hiss, and the woman weakly sat up, wrapping her arms around herself as if cold. She coughed softly, her voice like wind across glass. "My name is Alara," she said. "I was waiting. For what?" Jace asked, watching her closely, unsure if she was dangerous or just lost. "For someone the ship would trust," she said, looking at him like she was still trying to understand. "The ship only opens to those with clear hearts." Jace laughed nervously. "Well, it must have made a mistake." "No," she said firmly, her gaze sharp despite her weakness. "You were chosen." Suddenly, alarms echoed in the ship, a flickering red light danced across the room, and alien symbols flashed on the walls. Jace looked around, confused. "What's happening?" Alara tried to stand but stumbled, and Jace caught her in his arms. "The ship senses movement outside," she said, her breath shaky. Others must have followed you. He helped her into the control chair. Can this thing fly? It can. She nodded, placing her glowing hand on a nearby panel. But it only responds to bonded pairs, Jace blinked. What does that mean? She looked at him, her eyes soft now. It means the ship will fly. If I trust you, and you trust me. He swallowed hard, then nodded. Let's try it. Her hand trembled as it touched his, the lights in the ship slowly shifting to white blue. Engines hummed deep below, and for the first time, the walls around them felt alive. From outside, the rusted hull shed its broken plates, revealing smooth, silver armor beneath. It wasn't a junk ship, it had been hiding waiting. The ship lifted slowly into the air, shaking off years of dust. Jace looked through the front screen, seeing the auction market shrinking below. Confused sellers staring up in shock, they were. Flying, Alara smiled weakly. You did it. No, Jace said, glancing at her. We did. But her body was still fragile, and soon she collapsed into the seat, her energy fading again. Jace panicked, rushing to her side. Hey, stay. With me, he said, gently shaking her shoulder. What's wrong? I've been in stasis too long, she whispered. I need food, warmth, ... Connection. Jace picked her up in his arms, careful and slow. I'll take care of you, he promised. Even though he didn't know what that meant yet, he carried her through the ship, searching until he found a small cabin with a soft bed and strange glowing pillows. He laid her down, pulling a thermal blanket over her as she drifted into sleep again. Her fingers found his hand and held it weakly. You're not like the others, she murmured. You didn't come to take. You came to stay. Jay sat beside her in silence, watching her breathe, somewhere in the stars. This ship had been waiting, and somehow so had she. Now he wasn't just the owner of a mysterious ship. He had awakened something far greater, a secret, a soul, and maybe a destiny. And he wasn't sure if he was ready, but he knew one thing: he wouldn't leave her. Not now, not ever.